My dad handed me the keys to a tiny cafe and said, "This is your fresh start, Chloe." 3 months later, I was on my knees in its bathroom, scraping mildew out of the grout with a toothbrush while my mother-in-law counted the cash I'd just earned. "Missed a spot," Linda sang, not even looking up. "You should be grateful. Without me, you'd have nothing." She wasn't paying me a cent. 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and somehow I was still lazy, ungrateful, not business-minded. Customers thought I was the owner. On paper, I barely existed. She'd helped me with the legal documents, managed the money, saved my dad's investment, and quietly took my cafe for herself. Everyone told me to keep the peace. Family is complicated. She means well. They didn't see the contracts. They didn't hear what she said when the doors were locked. This is how the girl scrubbing toilets for free made her mother-in-law lose everything. When Dad first pressed the small silver key into my palm, I thought he was joking. "Go on, Chloe," he said, nudging me toward the door of the little corner cafe. "Open it. See what you think." The bell chimed as I pushed inside, and the warm scent of old espresso grounds and cinnamon drifted toward us. Sunlight filtered across the chipped anchor logo behind the counter Harbor Light Coffee, a place I'd walked past 100 times but never imagined owning. "You bought this?" I whispered. Dad shrugged, trying to look casual. "I figured you deserved something that belonged to you. Something no one could take away." Those words would haunt me later. Ryan slipped his arm around my waist. "Your mom can help with the business side," he said. "She knows retail. This could be great for us." Us. At the time, I believed that too. Linda stood by the window, lips pinched like she was smelling spoiled milk. "It needs work," she said. "But Chloe's young. She can learn discipline." Dad shot me a look. "You sure about this family?" But I pushed past it. I was too overwhelmed, too hopeful. I'd spent years stuck in office jobs that chewed me up and spat me out, praying for one chance to breathe, to build something real. This cafe felt like an answered prayer. The first month was messy but magical, a blur of spilled lattes, regular customers, late-night menu planning, and Dad stopping by with his quality control cinnamon rolls. For the first time in my life, when someone asked what I did, I said proudly, "I run a cafe." I had no idea that the people closest to me were already plotting to take it. At first, Linda's involvement felt harmless, annoying, yes, but harmless. "It's just bookkeeping, sweetheart," she said one evening, already seated at a corner table with my laptop open. "Ryan works full-time. You're overwhelmed. Let me help you stay afloat." I was overwhelmed. My feet throbbed, my inbox was a battlefield, and learning inventory software at midnight wasn't exactly my dream. So I hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, just until I get the hang of it." Her smile was too smooth. "Of course, just until—" That was the first line I didn't see her cross. The next week, she intercepted the delivery truck before I even arrived. "The organic milk costs too much," she announced, flipping through invoices. "We're switching to a cheaper brand." "But the taste," I began. "No one will notice," she snapped. "You need to think like a businesswoman, Chloe." Ryan backed her. "She's right, babe. Margins matter. Margins, money, numbers. Things she weaponized to make me feel stupid. Then came the schedules. "You shouldn't waste money on extra baristas in the afternoons," Linda said. "You can handle it yourself. It will teach you discipline." I almost laughed. Teach me discipline? I was opening the cafe at dawn and closing after dark, running on caffeine and survival instinct. But instead of resisting, I swallowed my objections. I wanted peace. I wanted approval. I wanted to believe we were still a family. Soon, my helpful mother-in-law had taken over ordering, finances, scheduling, and customer policies. And with each new task she claimed, she stripped away a piece of my ownership. Within a month, I was working 12-hour days, 7 days a week. She sat near the register like a queen on a throne. I scrambled around like her unpaid servant. "Why are you taking so long with that customer? Your foam is too thick. Your menu choices are charming, but not profitable." Every correction cut deeper. The moment things truly shifted was when she marched out of the office one morning holding a thick folder. "We need to formalize the partnership," she said. "Just routine business stuff. Liability, taxes boring but necessary." My stomach twisted. Do we need a lawyer to look this over? Linda laughed, a sharp, unpleasant sound. Lawyers are expensive, dear. Families don't need all that drama. It was a problem, tatted. Ryan kissed my forehead. It's fine. I skimmed it. Totally standard. I should have run. I should have read every page with suspicion. Instead, exhausted and eager to please, I signed. My pen scratched across the paper like a whisper of surrender. I didn't know I'd just handed her the legal right to own more of the cafe than I did. I didn't know I'd given her the power to control everything. I didn't know I'd become a guest. No, a worker. In the very business my father gifted me. But Linda knew. She'd planned it that way. The first time Dad asked, "So, how much are you paying yourself?" I laughed, too loudly. "Dad, it's a startup," I said, waving him off. "Everything goes back into the business." It wasn't entirely a lie. Some money did go back into the cafe, but most of it went into Linda's manicured hands. I didn't know that yet. Not until much later. For now, I just kept grinding. The free labor she never acknowledged. One morning, Linda breezed into the cafe at 10 a.m. Her usual start time holding a latte someone else made for her. "Chloe, customers mentioned sticky tables yesterday," she said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "Do you know how that reflects on us? We were slammed because the college had orientation," I began. "So you're blaming customers now?" She cut in. I swallowed the anger burning my throat. "No, I'll fix it. Good girl," she said. Every time she called me that good girl, a part of me curled up and died. And she always delivered her insults with this sugary sweetness that made me feel crazy for being hurt. Gaslighting wrapped in a Hallmark card. The review that broke me. The day everything spiraled, someone left a mediocre review. "Decent coffee. Dirty grout in the bathroom, though." That was it. No rant, no profanity. Just a stranger commenting on bathroom grout. Linda printed it, circled the sentence, and slapped it onto the staff bulletin board right above my apron hook. "See?" she said, tapping the paper. "This is why I've been pushing you to try harder." My jaw clenched. "Linda, every cafe gets bad reviews sometimes. Not because of filth," she snapped. "You need to clean with intention. Get the gloves. We're doing the bathroom again." "In the middle of the rush?" I asked. Her eyes hardened. "Do you think humility has a schedule?" So there I was, 30 minutes later, on my knees scrubbing grout while customers ordered drinks 10 feet away. My face burned with humiliation. "This is punishment," I whispered under my breath. Linda crouched beside me, voice soft like poison. "No, honey, this is responsibility. A concept you've struggled with your whole life." I froze. That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not enough to fight back. Not yet. But enough to wonder how far she would go. The contract that made everything make sense. After closing that night, I dragged myself into the office, desperate to understand why she had so much power over every part of the cafe. Why she talked to me like I was an intern, and not the woman who opened the doors every morning. Ryan had left the partnership folder out. I opened it. The truth punched me so hard I grabbed the desk to stay upright. Linda Foster, 51% ownership. Ryan Foster, 24%. Chloe Evans Foster, 25%. My name looked so small under theirs. Under decision-making authority, it read, "Managing member, Linda Foster. Chloe Evans Foster may execute tasks assigned by the managing member." Tasks assigned to me. I sounded like a dishwasher. Not a partner. Not an owner. Not a daughter whose father spent his life savings to give her a dream. A task performer. My breath shook as I found the signature line. My own handwriting stared back at me. When Ryan came into the office, I held up the contract with trembling fingers. "You knew about this," I said. He blinked at me, confused or pretending to be. "Yeah, babe. That's how equity works. Mom invested actual money. You didn't." "I invested my time," I shot back. "My health, my whole life." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Don't be dramatic. Mom's just helping you. She saved us." "No," I whispered, voice cracking. "She stole from me." He frowned like I was being childish. Like I was ungrateful. Like I was the problem. "Chloe, you're tired," he said. "You're taking everything so personally." I stared at him. At the man who promised partnership but delivered betrayal. At the person who stood beside his mother while she ground me down to dust. For the first time since the cafe opened, I realized I was completely alone in that building. Except for the woman who wanted me broken. That night, I slept curled on the couch with the partnership contract clutched in my hands. The proof that everything I'd been feeling, everything I'd been doubting, everything Linda had been manipulating, was real. And in the quiet, something else took root beneath the shame and exhaustion. I wasn't going to let her own me forever. The morning everything snapped started like any other, with me on my knees. It was 6:45 a.m., and Linda stood behind me in the bathroom, arms folded, tapping her heel impatiently while I scrubbed the grout she swore was ruining the business. "You're still missing spots," she said sharply, pointing at the tiniest sliver of discoloration. "Honestly, Chloe, if you put half as much effort into cleaning as you do into complaining—" "I'm not complaining," I murmured, swallowing the humiliation like a pill. "I'm doing it. Well, do it better." The words stung, but the tone hurt more. Mocking. Dismissive. Like she was disciplining a child. Then the bell over the front door chimed. I froze. Linda smirked. "Great. Now customers get to watch you on your knees again. Maybe they'll learn to leave honest reviews." But it wasn't a customer. It was my dad. The moment everything unraveled. "Chloe?" Dad called. "You back there?" Before I could stand, Linda blocked the doorway and said loudly, "She's cleaning the bathroom again. Standards weren't met. We can't have filth associated with our cafe." Dad stepped forward and stopped dead. He took in the scene. Me kneeling, rubber gloves dripping, toothbrush in hand. And something in his face changed, a quiet, dangerous stillness. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "what are you doing on the floor?" I opened my mouth, but my voice barely came out. "Just helping. It's fine." Linda cut in. "Training. She needs discipline, Mark. Otherwise customers complain." Dad turned to her, and for the first time in my life I saw true fury in his eyes. "Linda," he said calmly, "she's your daughter-in-law, not your janitor." Linda laughed. "Owners do whatever needs doing. Isn't that right, Chloe?" I felt small, pathetic, dirty in ways scrubbing couldn't fix. Dad knelt beside me, ignoring Linda completely. "Chloe," he said quietly, "stand up." "Dad, please, stand up," he repeated, voice trembling. I stood. My entire body shook like it finally understood it wasn't supposed to live like this. The coffee that told the truth. I followed Dad to a booth and brought him a cup of coffee, trying to pretend nothing had happened. He held the mug, studying me instead of drinking. "How much does she pay you?" he asked. My stomach twisted. "Dad, I'm your father, answer me." I stared at the table. "At the moment, nothing. But once we're profitable." "Nothing?" His voice cracked. "Chloe, you work 12-hour days." Linda called from behind the counter. "Chloe, when you're done chatting, the trash is overflowing." Dad's jaw clenched so hard a muscle twitched. "Trash can wait," he responded without looking at her. Linda scoffed loudly, but didn't push further, maybe because half the cafe had gone silent watching us. Dad turned back to me. "Come by tonight. Bring whatever contract you signed." I swallowed. "Okay, good," he said, eyes softening. "We'll figure this out." The breakdown, I couldn't stop. That night, I showed up at Dad's apartment with a duffel bag and mascara tracks carved into my cheeks. He opened the door instantly. "Chloe, oh sweetheart." I dropped the contract onto the kitchen table. I dropped myself onto the couch. And then, I shattered. "I thought she was helping," I sobbed. "I thought Ryan was helping. I thought we were building something as a family." Dad sat beside me, pulling me into his chest. His shirt smelled like motor oil and peppermint gum, safe, familiar, mine. "You worked harder than anyone," he murmured. "And they exploited you. That's not your fault. That's theirs." "I signed it," I whispered. "I signed away everything you gave me." "No," he said firmly. "You signed what she manipulated you into signing. That is not the same thing." I don't know what to do." He held me tighter. "We're going to fix this," he said. "We're going to take your cafe back." I shook my head. "She has the law. She has the contract. She has Ryan." Dad pulled back and met my eyes. "But you have me," he said. "And I'm done watching them break you." Something inside me, something small, scared, and quiet, finally exhaled. Because for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. The first spark of war. Dad picked up the contract and read in silence. With every line he turned, The air grew heavier. When he finished, he set it down gently like it was a bomb. "She took this from you," he said. "We're going to take it back." "How?" I whispered. He leaned forward. "By showing everyone what she's done," he said. "By documenting everything. By proving she exploited you." I blinked. "Are we really doing this?" "Yes," he said, eyes cold and clear. "You're not her servant, you're my daughter, and she's about to learn what that means." That was the night the fight truly began. Not in the courtroom, not on TikTok, not when the inspectors came. It began right there, in my father's tiny apartment, with both of us bent over a contract and a shared understanding. Linda had crossed a line. We were going to make her regret it. The next morning, I woke up in Dad's apartment with puffy eyes, a knot in my stomach, and a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I wasn't going to survive Linda by being quiet. I wasn't going to win by hoping Ryan would suddenly grow a backbone. I wasn't going to earn respect from someone determined to crush me. I needed evidence. I needed allies. I needed a plan. And Dad, God bless him, was already in the kitchen. Sleeves rolled up, legal pads spread across the table like we were plotting a heist. "We need everything," he said. "Dates, times, receipts, messages. Anything she said, anything she made you do. We build a record." I swallowed. "Dad, I don't know where to start." He slid a notepad toward me. "Start with the truth. The recordings." I went back to the cafe the next day, pretending everything was normal. But in my apron pocket, my phone was recording. Voice memo. Screen locked. Microphone facing up. Every shift, every order, every insult captured. "Chloe, you're slower than usual today. Are you sick or just unfocused? You want to get paid? Sweetheart, the cafe isn't a charity. Earn it. Why can't you clean properly? Your generation has no work ethic." "Smile, Chloe. Customers don't like seeing how miserable you are." Each time she opened her mouth, my heart pounded, but I kept my face neutral. I kept working. I kept collecting. Because every cruel sentence was one more brick in the case we were building. Every night, Dad poured us tea while we listened through hours of audio. Sometimes I had to pause the playback because my hands were shaking too hard. Dad wrote everything down. Timestamps. Direct quotes. Patterns of verbal and financial abuse. "This is more than enough to start," he said finally. "But not enough to win," I whispered. He didn't deny it. Linda was calculating. Every abuse was framed as training, constructive criticism, family dynamics, unless she slipped. Unless we caught her admitting something big. Something legal. Something fatal to her case. And then fate handed me exactly that. The day she revealed her real plan. It was a slow Thursday afternoon when Linda cornered me in the back hallway. "You look tired," she said, smirking. "If you'd signed a better contract, you could afford a vacation." My pulse spiked. "What do you mean better contract?" She waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, Chloe, you really thought this was your cafe? Your father threw money around like a fool. I simply gave it direction." "What direction?" I whispered. She leaned in close. So close I smelled her perfume floral. Expensive, nauseating. "You don't get it yet, do you? I'm the one keeping this place alive. And soon, legally, it will all be mine." My blood turned to ice. "What did you just say?" Linda's smile sharpened. "Your signature is on everything. Not even a judge can undo incompetence." Before I could respond, a customer walked in, and she snapped back into her sugar-sweet persona. But it was too late. She had confessed, and my phone had recorded every word. I stepped into the supply closet, shaking so violently I dropped the mop bucket. My voice cracked as I whispered, Dad, I think we got her." The lawyer who didn't flinch. Dad arranged a meeting that same evening with Ava Miller, an employment and small business attorney recommended by one of his old customers. Ava's office smelled like fresh coffee and printer ink. She shook my hand firmly, studied me for a moment, and said, "Tell me everything." So I did. The unpaid labor, the psychological manipulation, the ownership she hid in the contract, the recordings, and now her confession. By the time I finished, Ava's eyes glinted with something dangerous. "Chloe," she said, folding her hands, "your mother-in-law is in deep legal trouble. Fraud, coercion, wage theft, misuse of authority. This is not just a family dispute. This is a lawsuit waiting to explode." I swallowed. "Can we win?" "Yes," she said without hesitation. But it will get ugly before it gets better. Dad snorted. Ugly already moved in and redecorated. Ava slid a packet across the table. First step, formal demand for financial transparency. Once Linda panics, and she'll make mistakes. Second, more recordings. Third, gather witnesses. Witnesses? I echoed. Anyone who saw how she treated you, Ava said. Customers, friends, former employees. Anyone who heard her speak to you like you were unpaid labor. Judges like patterns. I thought of Nicole, the grad student, Megan, my Friday regular, Mr. Green, who always tipped generously. They'd seen things, maybe enough. Chloe, Ava added, leaning forward. You need to be brave. You're not just fighting for a cafe. You're fighting for your dignity. Something inside me steadied. I'm ready. The social media spark. The universe must have heard us. The next week, during a slammed lunch rush, Linda snapped at me. Stop whining and get back to the floor. I don't pay you to stand around. Except, she didn't pay me. And a customer overheard. Not just overheard, recorded. That evening, the video appeared on TikTok. MIL from hell humiliates her daughter-in-law in the cafe she stole from her. Number Harbor Light hell, number protect Chloe, number MIL a nightmare. 24 hours later, it had 150,000 views. People were furious. Comment after comment condemned Linda, sympathized with me, demanded justice. And in the middle of the storm, a message from Octavia Pierce, a popular local food blogger. Chloe, I want to hear your side. Let me tell your story. I stared at the message, breath shallow. Dad, I whispered, the internet is on fire. He grinned. Good. Maybe it'll light the path forward. The official notice. The next morning, Linda received our attorney's formal letter. She ripped it open in the middle of the cafe, scanned the first lines, and her face contorted into something between shock and feral rage. She stormed toward me, waving the letter like a weapon. You ungrateful little vixen, she screamed. You dare threaten me? After everything I've done for you? Customers froze. Phones lifted. Cameras recorded. Linda, I said calmly, heart pounding. Stop yelling, you're making a scene. She leaned in so close I felt her breath on my cheek. I will ruin you. I will ruin your father. You think a lawyer scares me? I own you. A hush fell over the cafe. In that moment, she didn't look powerful. She looked unhinged. I removed my apron, set it on the counter, and said, No, Linda. You lost that privilege the day you decided my life belonged to you. I walked out the door with my head held high. Behind me, Linda screamed my name like a curse. Ahead of me, Dad waited outside with open arms. And even though my hands shook, something inside me clicked into place. The war had officially begun, and I wasn't running anymore. The inspection that shattered Linda's lies. 2 days after I walked out, Dad received a message from one of his old colleagues in the health department. Mark, an anonymous complaint came in for Harbor Light Coffee. Multiple sanitation violations. Inspection scheduled for Thursday. Dad didn't say it directly, but the spark in his eyes told me everything. He made the call. Not out of spite, but because he knew exactly how Linda ran that kitchen. Thursday arrived like a thunderclap. At 10:04 a.m., a white sedan with a government seal pulled up outside the cafe. 2 inspectors stepped out. A woman with a clipboard and a tall man with a temperature gun clipped to his belt. Linda must have seen them through the window, because she burst outside, plastering on a sugary smile. Welcome, what a surprise. We pride ourselves on sanitation. The inspector cut her off. Ma'am, we'll begin in the kitchen. Inside, the inspectors worked systematically. No small talk, no distractions. They checked the walk-in fridge. Linda hovered behind them, sweating. Those date labels must have fallen off, she said weakly. And the milk well, the delivery must have. Ma'am, the inspector replied flatly. This dairy is expired. The temperature gun beeped. Too warm. The inspector scribbled something. Linda's voice cracked. We've just been busy. Chloe usually handles this. The inspector looked up. Where is Chloe? Linda's face twitched like she'd been slapped. She no longer works here. The inspector nodded, unimpressed. Then these violations fall on you. I watched from across the street in Dad's truck. Part of me was shaking. Part of me was vindicated. The inspection took nearly an hour. By the time it ended, Linda's hands were trembling. The inspector handed her a yellow form. Linda scanned it, gasped, and grabbed the doorframe for balance. A $2,300 fine, probation status. Mandatory reinspection. Dad exhaled slowly. That's for the grout, he muttered. For the first time, Linda's perfect little empire cracked, and it cracked publicly. Her reputation shattered like glass falling on concrete. The confrontation that went viral. I should have expected what happened next. That afternoon, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages, tags, mentions. Dad rushed into the living room and held out his phone. Chloe, you need to see this. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, a clip was everywhere. Linda screaming at the inspectors. This is a setup. That little brat is behind this. She's trying to destroy me. Then, my son's wife is a troublemaker. She should have never been given that cafe. Someone captioned it. Mill from hell exposed during health inspection. Within hours, it had 600,000 views. Comments flooded in. Poor Chloe. This woman is unhinged. Where's the husband? Free Chloe. I felt sick. Not because she humiliated herself, but because she revealed exactly how she saw me. Not as family, not as a partner, not as a person, but as a threat. The night she came for us, I thought Linda would hide. I thought she'd lawyer up, retreat, strategize. I underestimated her ego. At 8:27 p.m., the doorbell rang at Dad's apartment. Dad peeked out the window. His jaw tightened. Stay behind me, Chloe. He opened the door. Linda stood there, mascara smeared, hair frizzed from the rain, holding a crumpled folder of legal documents. Ryan hovered behind her, pale and exhausted. Linda pointed at me like she was accusing me of murder. You ruined me, she hissed. You think posting videos makes you powerful? You think the internet cares about you? Dad stepped forward. Linda, leave. No, she snapped. She started a war. I'm ending it. Ryan finally spoke. Mom, stop, please. She ignored him. You're going to drop the lawyer, she said to me. You're going to post an apology. You're going to say you lied about everything. And then what? I asked softly. Her eyes narrowed. Then maybe I'll consider giving you a job again. Dad laughed, actually laughed. It was low, bitter, and dangerous. Linda, he said, I'd rather burn the cafe down than let Chloe work under you again. Linda's face contorted. Fine, she snarled. If you want war, war is what you'll get. She threw the folder at my feet. You want to fight? Then let's see how a broke little barista handles a lawsuit. Dad stepped closer, voice ice cold. Chloe isn't broke, he said. And she isn't alone. Linda scoffed, turned and stormed down the stairs. Ryan lingered. He looked at me with hollow eyes. I tried, he whispered. No, I replied, voice steady. You didn't. He flinched. Then he followed his mother into the darkness. The night I broke for the last time. After they left, I collapsed onto the couch, not crying, not shaking, just empty. Dad, I whispered. What if she destroys me? He cupped my face gently. She's already destroyed everything she ever had, he said. But you're just beginning. For the first time in months, I believed him. The decision that turned the tide. The next morning, I met Ava in her office. I want to move forward, I said. No fear, no hesitation. Ava smiled with something like pride. Good. Because Linda just threatened the wrong woman. She slid a document across the desk. Chloe, today we file the lawsuit. Fraud, wage theft, coercion, emotional abuse, ownership manipulation, a legal hurricane. And after this, Ava added, we go public. My breath caught. Public? Your story matters, she said. People need to hear it. I nodded slowly. For the first time, I wasn't just trying to survive Linda. I was going to beat her. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a reckoning. The day the truth went public. Octavia's article dropped at 6:02 a.m. I wasn't awake. But the world was. By 6:30, my phone was vibrating nonstop. By 6:45, Dad burst into my room. Chloe, sweetheart, get up. You need to see this. I rubbed my eyes, still half asleep. What's wrong? Nothing, he said, breathless. Everything. The headline glowed from his phone screen. The dark reality inside Harbor Light Coffee. How a young owner lost her dream to family exploitation. My name was there. My story was there. Linda's treatment of me, verbal abuse, unpaid labor, Manipulation laid bare with quotes from customers and former employees, screenshots, audio transcripts, anonymous interviews. Octavia didn't just write an article, she wrote a case, and the internet devoured it. This is why we need labor laws. Protect small business owners. That mill is a monster. Chloe, we're with you. A hashtag trended. Number justice for Chloe. Tears blurred my vision. Dad wrapped an arm around me. You're not invisible anymore, he whispered. You're seen. Linda unravels on live TV. It took only hours for news stations to pick up the story. Reporters camped outside Harbor Light Coffee. Customers refused to enter while Linda was present. Neighbors stared openly. Phones recorded everything. At noon, a shaky live stream began circulating. Linda, marching outside the cafe, shrieking into cameras, "This is all lies. My daughter-in-law is a manipulative, ungrateful little..." A reporter cut in. "Ma'am, the article includes audio evidence." Linda lunged toward the camera, finger jabbing. "Those recordings are fake. She is trying to steal my business." Comments exploded. "She's absolutely unhinged. She's destroying herself on camera. Imagine treating someone like this and thinking you're the victim." Then she made her fatal mistake. She shouted, "I own that cafe. She signed it over to me. So, what if I made her work without pay? She owed me," the world gasped, metaphorically and literally on stream, because she had just confessed to wage theft, to coercion, to knowingly stripping me of ownership on video, Dad whispered, stunned. She just buried herself. Ava, our attorney, texted, "Download that clip immediately." The betrayal that cut deepest. That afternoon, Ryan called. I stared at the screen. His name blurred. Dad answered for me. "What do you want, Ryan?" "Chloe needs to come home," Ryan said. "This is going too far. My mom she's not okay." Dad's tone turned to stone. "No. Chloe isn't stepping foot into the place where she was abused." Ryan scoffed. "Abused? Oh, come on. You're dramatizing this." I grabbed the phone. "Ryan," I said, my voice trembling with months of pain. "You stood beside her while she broke me. You let her call me worthless. You watched me work until I fainted. You let her steal the cafe from under me. I didn't know." "You did," I snapped. "You just didn't care." Silence. Then he whispered something that shattered the last sliver of hope I'd held. "Mom needs the cafe more than you do." I closed my eyes. Dad took the phone and hung up without a word. And that was the moment. In the exact moment. My marriage died. The court summons. 2 days later, Linda struck back. A courier appeared at Dad's door with a thick envelope. A lawsuit. Linda was suing me. For defamation, emotional cruelty, and sabotage. Dad snorted. "She just set herself on fire and is trying to blame you for the smoke." Ava looked over the papers and smirked. "This is excellent." "Excellent?" I gasped. "She filed emotional damages for things that never happened. Which means when we countersue, your evidence will annihilate hers." Still, my hands shook. Dad covered them with his own. "You're not fighting alone." The hearing from hell. The preliminary hearing was held in a packed courtroom. Linda arrived wearing pearls and a white suit, as if purity could be sewn into fabric. Ryan trailed behind her, eyes down. She glared at me with pure venom. Dad leaned close. "Head high, Chloe," Ava whispered. "Let her talk. She'll destroy her own case." And oh, she did. Linda took the stand and immediately slipped into performance mode. Fake tears, quivering lip, soft, trembling voice. I loved Chloe like a daughter. I only wanted to help her. She was overwhelmed, emotional, fragile. A murmur rippled through the room. Then Ava stood. "Mrs. Foster, can you explain this video?" The screen lit up with the clip of Linda screaming. "So, what if I made her work without pay? She owed me." Linda's face drained of color. Ava continued. "And these audio recordings? Chloe, you're useless. If you want money, earn it. This cafe will be mine soon enough. Your signature made sure of that." Linda sputtered. Those are out of context." Ava raised a brow. "In what context is wage theft acceptable?" The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Foster, did you at any point profit from Miss Evans Foster's unpaid labor?" Linda hesitated. That was enough. The moment the judge turned. After reviewing the evidence, the judge made a preliminary ruling. Linda's defamation suit was dismissed immediately. The court found substantial grounds for Chloe's countersuit. A full investigation was ordered into Linda's business practices. Ryan's involvement would be reviewed. Financial records for Harbor Light Coffee were subpoenaed. Linda collapsed into her chair. A strangled gasp escaped her lips. She covered her face, shoulders shaking not with sadness, but with rage. As we walked out, she hissed, "You think you've won? I'm not done. I will never let you take what's mine." I turned back, voice steady. "It was never yours. And it never will be again." The night everything caught fire. We thought the climax had passed. We were wrong. Just before midnight, Dad's phone lit up with notifications. Texts, calls, alerts. "Dad?" I asked, heart thudding. He opened his news app. And we saw it. Harbor Light Coffee was on fire, flames devouring the sign, smoke pouring from the windows, firefighters battling a blaze that lit up the night sky. Dad grabbed his keys. At the scene, firefighters worked furiously. A man holding a hose shouted, "Get back, it's not safe!" Linda stood across the street, screaming incoherently at the officers. Her hair wild, her blouse stained with soot. Ryan was nowhere. Police officers rushed between firefighters and onlookers. "Do we know the cause?" Dad asked. "Preliminary reports suggest arson," an officer answered grimly. My knees buckled. "Dad caught me," someone whispered. "She did it. She actually did it." But Linda was screaming, "She did this. Chloe burned it down to frame me. Arrest her." I stared at her, stunned. She looked broken, twisted, gone. Dad stepped forward, voice booming. "Chloe wasn't anywhere near here. But you were." Linda screamed until officers restrained her. The fire raged through the night. My heart cracked open as I watched the place Dad bought for me, the dream I worked myself sick to build, crumble into glowing embers. Dad whispered, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart." "No," I said softly, tears soaking my collar. "She didn't win. Not yet. Because burning the cafe didn't erase the truth. It only proved how far Linda would go to maintain control. And the law would not ignore that." The turning point. By dawn, investigators confirmed. The fire started inside the office. Accelerants were used. Security footage showed Linda entering the cafe alone at 11:07 p.m. She was arrested on 3 charges: arson, fraud, wage theft. Ryan tried to bail her out. But his accounts were frozen pending investigation. He looked at me across the parking lot, eyes hollow and defeated. "Chloe," he whispered hoarsely, "I didn't know she'd go this far." I looked at him steadily. "She always would have. You just never bothered to stop her." He swallowed hard. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I said gently. "But sorry doesn't fix what you helped break." He broke down, but I walked away. Because the girl who once scrubbed grout while her mother-in-law mocked her was finally done apologizing for other people's sins. The climax closes with a choice. 2 days later, Ava handed me a stack of legal documents. "Chloe," she said, "with Linda under arrest, the court is ready to finalize ownership." My breath caught. Dad squeezed my hand. "You earned this," he whispered. And for the first time, I believed it. For the first time, the cafe wasn't a symbol of pain, but a symbol of what I survived, what I fought for, what Linda could never take again. The aftermath of the fire. For 2 weeks after the fire, my world went strangely silent. No cafe to open at dawn. No coffee beans to grind. No Linda hovering behind me like a vulture. Just me, Dad, and the empty space where my old life used to be. Some nights, I sat on the curb across from the charred building, staring at the blackened beams and melted signage. It didn't look like a business anymore. It looked like grief made physical. Dad would sit beside me quietly, letting me feel everything. "You know," he said one night, "sometimes the forest needs a fire for new growth." I leaned my head on his shoulder. "I'm tired of burning, Dad." "I know," he whispered. "But you're still here. That says everything." Linda's final fall. 3 weeks later, the charges were finalized. Arson, fraudulent manipulation of ownership, wage theft, coercive control. Ava called me. "Chloe, the prosecution is strong. She's looking at prison time." "What about Ryan?" I asked quietly. "He claimed ignorance," Ava replied. "They'll investigate, but legally, his involvement is limited." I nodded, even though my heart clenched. Linda's trial lasted only 4 days. She attempted tears, theatrics, excuses, but the evidence was overwhelming. The judge's sentence rang out like a closing chapter. Linda Foster, you are found guilty on all counts. You will serve 16 months in state prison and pay full restitution to Chloe Evans Foster. Linda didn't scream this time. She simply stared at me from across the courtroom, a hollow, shrunken version of the woman who once commanded every inch of my life. I didn't hate her. I didn't pity her. I felt nothing. I'd finally taken back the power she stole. Ryan's letter. A month later, a letter arrived in my mailbox. From Ryan, my hands shook as I opened it. Chloe, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I failed you not just as a husband, but as a human being. I let my mother control me, and I let her destroy you. I'm sorry for every moment you stood alone. I've moved out of state. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to rebuild myself into someone better. I hope life gives you everything I couldn't. Ryan. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not to save. Not to revisit. Just to acknowledge the end. Some endings don't need to be loud. Some just need to be accepted. The community that refused to let me break. The biggest surprise came when a stranger approached me outside the burned cafe. Are you Chloe? She asked, smiling gently. I am. She handed me a white envelope. This is from the neighborhood group. We read your story. We want to help. Inside was a check for $1,250. The next day, the college students brought supplies. The book club brought pastries. A retired carpenter offered to rebuild the interior for cost only. Local cafes donated equipment they no longer used. A crowdfunding page went live, and in 3 days, it hit $18,000. I cried more in those 3 days than in the 6 months before. Not from pain this time. From gratitude, from validation, from the realization that even when my world collapsed, there were people ready to hold me up. The rebirth of Harbor Light Coffee. 6 months later, Harbor Light Coffee reopened. New windows, new counters, new machines, new lighting, new logo, a rising sun over calm waters. But the biggest change wasn't physical. It was me. I hired staff, with real pay and real boundaries. Dad became the unofficial greeter, chatting with customers every morning. A local reporter wrote, Harbor Light Coffee is a symbol of survival. And customers lined up around the block on opening day. When I handed Dad the first cinnamon roll of the morning, he looked at me with misty eyes. You did this, Chloe. No, I said softly. We did. The moment of full closure. One quiet morning, before the rush, I brewed myself a cappuccino and stepped outside. The sun warmed my shoulders. Birds chirped on the telephone wires. The sign above the door creaked softly in the breeze. For the first time in a long time, I exhaled without pain. This cafe, this life finally belonged to me. A father walked by holding his daughter's hand. She pointed at me and whispered, Is she the owner? Her dad smiled. She sure is. And the girl beamed at me like I was some kind of hero. Maybe, after everything, I was. Not because I fought Linda. Not because the internet rallied behind me. Not because the cafe survived. But because I survived. Because I rebuilt myself from the ashes. Because I refused to stay broken. The final line. As I unlocked the cafe door and walked inside, sunlight spilling across the counters, I whispered the words that carried me through every dark moment. This dream is mine now, and no one will ever take it from me again, or 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 take it from me again,